Okay, so you've heard it, I've heard it, we have all heard the saying, out of sight, out of mind. And it makes sense for some things. But if that's your mindset when it comes to your gutters on your home, you may be setting yourself up for some serious consequences. Did you know that according to homepreservations.com, clogged gutters, or gutters that aren't pitched right to let the water run out, the roof, the siding, the foundation, they can all be damaged, and that could cost you up to $100,000 to repair. Now, if the water's not directed away from the structure, it can find its way into and under the foundation. Now you got mold, mildew, dry rot. All that could cost you up to $40,000 to repair. Allowing shrubs and trees to overgrow the gutters can also cause considerable problems, with a potential repair cost of up to $12,000. Oh, but wait, yes, there's more. Loose, damaged, or non-existent gutters allow for uncontrolled water flow, which can cost you tens of thousands of dollars in damage to siding, trim, windows, and doors. So, while it is a fall chore that absolutely nobody likes to do, if you don't clean out your gutters regularly, you could be asking for trouble. And in today's Angie's List report, why you should not ignore your gutters or your downspouts.
It's a pre-wooded lot, so basically we have a lot of leaves, stuff fall off the trees, limbs that actually fall off, and so that over time has damaged the gutters to the point where they actually started to sag.
Jeremy Mitchell's home and landscape suffered water damage as a result of overflowing gutters.
We get large branches falling on the house all the time, and so I think a combination of that and then irregular maintenance to the gutters as far as cleaning them out. I mean, cleaning is probably the biggest thing that we almost can't do it enough in this house.
If you can't or don't want to clean your gutters, call in a professional to do the work. They should remove all leaves and other debris from your roof, gutters, and downspouts. They should also check the overall condition of your gutters and make any necessary repairs.
It involves getting up on the roof, if it's a walkable roof, walking around, cleaning out the gutters from the roof. On steeper roofs, we can't do it from the roof. We have to work off the ladder and go around the house cleaning out the gutters by hand. And if the debris in the gutter is dry, we can take a blower like you would use to blow leaves in the yard and blow the excess out of the gutters. If it's wet, we just do it by hand as best we can.
The cost to clean your gutters can range anywhere from about $75 to around $200 depending on the size of your house as well as how many stories you have in your home. In order to replace your gutters, it can be anywhere from $500 to $2,000 for aluminum gutters. So as you can see, it pays off to take care of your gutters through the years.
It depends on the amount of trees around the house. Some people, we have to clean their gutters several times a year. Other people just once in late fall after all the leaves are down. Some people spring and fall. 2 times a year is probably the average.
Okay, now you've got to ask yourself, is this really a job that I can do by myself? Well, you're going to need a ladder, and you need to know that according to the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, in 2002 there was a higher rate of injury among people 65 and older using ladders than those younger. People 65 and older accounted for half of all ladder deaths reported. 39% of those hospitalized were for ladder-related injuries, and the number of ER-treated injuries from ladders and step stools was over 28,000. However, you got to get the gutters clean. Just make sure you know what you're doing. So then, what do you do with everything that you pulled out of the gutters? Well, Lisa has more on that.
Well, Jimmy, it's so easy to turn all of those leaves and other mess into a compost pile. And joining us today to show us how to do it right is gardening expert Ginny Rosenkrantz with the University of Maryland Extension Office. Jenny, thanks as always. So let's just talk first about the benefits of composting.
Well, composting is great because it takes all the stuff, like for instance, leaves this time of year are constantly falling off the trees. What do you do with them? Why should you bag them up and send them to the landfill when you can turn them into gold?
Yes.
And then you have all the weeds that you have to pick out of your garden because there is always going to be something to grow in your garden. And then there's a lot of annuals that are dying, so you need to go ahead and clean them out. So it's cleaning up the garden, cleaning up the yard, making the grass have a chance to breathe and grow and get some sunlight, and then turning all that into wonderful compost.
Now, is there anything we shouldn't put in our compost pile?
Oh yes, there are things you shouldn't put in compost. Any type of carnivore manure, like for instance cat or dog manure, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do any fats or grease, meat bones especially, or scraps, because you don't want to attract other things.
Right.
Pet waste. rice, we already mentioned that. Any type of plant material that has a disease or bugs on it, you don't want to do those either. Or seeds, you don't want to put a weed in that's full of seeds either. And anything that's been treated with pesticides, please just throw those away. You do need to throw those away. But everything else, and there's a whole bunch more things to do.
I'm sure there's a lot. Okay, so what do we compost in?
Well, there's a couple of different things you can do. You can just go ahead and do the lazy gardener's way, which is just a pile.
Okay.
Pick a level piece of ground, and then I would like to put some sticks on the bottom, and then start putting lots of browns, which would be carbon, which would be like your brown leaves.
Okay.
And then you put a little bit of greens, so it's like 3% of this to 1% of this.
Okay.
And you just make layers, and you just keep it going that way till you reach 3 feet high by 3 feet wide, and then you say, okay, good, do it.
But there are things you can get. There's like skins and tumblers.
Oh, there's tumblers, yeah, they're wonderful too. Now I like tumblers because if you have like kitchen scraps, and you live out in the country, or even if you live in a community or something like that, and you have critters or rodents or something like that, it's always nice to have a tumbler because you keep everything contained. And you put your kitchen scraps in, you turn it every day, and I actually brought a sample of what I use.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so,
all right. And we can use a bin.
Yeah, a bin is good too because again, it's completely enclosed, and you keep a lot of the critters out that you don't want to be attracting.
Now, you want to move it around in the tumbler, obviously. Is there should we do anything to speed up the composting? I know some people put lime or things like that.
Never put lime, because actually lime is going to release the nitrogen, and you need the nitrogen. I mean, basically these guys are working on the nitrogen, especially in all the greens, and that's what heats up your compost pile, and that's what makes the compost go from greens and browns to what you have. So don't add lime. Really, the only thing that you don't want to add is what we already mentioned. Everything else is fine.
Okay, and we can use it in the garden in the spring.
Absolutely.
All right.
Put it in your garden, on your lawn.
Thank you so much, Jenny. As always, a wealth of information. And if you would like to learn more about composting at home, go to delmarvalife.com and click on the show tab. Well, still ahead on Delmarva Life, the right food with the right wine can be a match made in heaven. But you don't have to be a sommelier to figure it all out. Whether your holiday meals are traditional or something a little more eccentric, we show you how to make sure you have the right wine to serve with it. Plus, Brian's at it again, trying to stump us in the Where is Brian guessing game this afternoon. Brian, we need a clue.
Well, Lisa, here is your first of 2 clues, so pay close attention. Here we go. Clue number 1. This town was named after an Episcopal parish. Your other clue and the big reveal coming up a little later in the show.